Hey everybody, welcome back to our movie review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. I literally have to re-record this because turns out my mic was muted the entire time, so I actually need to re-record this now, which is fine because also the kitties needed to get settled in. So we're gonna do this again. Probably a little more condensed this time because I literally just got done shooting that review and found out it was muted. So let's do this. So I just did I just checked this out and I have some thoughts. So let's talk about it again. That film that we're going to be discussing today is Train Dreams, which was co-written and directed by Clint Bentley. You guys may be familiar with films such as Jockey, which I believe is his directorial debut. And he's also friends with the co-writer of this film, because the other co-writer, Greg something, I forgot his name, he directed a film few years ago called Sing Sing, which I reviewed and enjoyed. So now here we are with Train Dreams, which was based on a novella written by Denis Johnson, and this stars Joel Egerton, Felicity Jones, Clifton Collins Jr., Karen Condon, and William H. Macy. And as the story goes, this is set in I want to say like the 30s or 40s, and we follow a man named Robert, what's his name? Robert Grainer, played by Joel Egerton. And we first meet him as he is somewhere in like his 30s or 40s. And as we get an idea at the beginning, he was an orphan child. He had never met his parents, and his life was pretty much just moving around from place to place. So he never really had solid ground. And in that, when you get to know the character, he is bearing an air of loneliness. He has a distance, and he is not particularly, great when it comes to the social landscape. So he's never had solid ground anywhere, and that's where his future wife, Felicity Jones, comes into the equation. And they start to build a life with each other. And as the film explores more so, very much so, we centralize ourselves within Robert's life and seeing how he is with his wife and eventually that of a child, to also working as a logger and the things that change over time, the changes that happen within him personally, within just the general landscape the world around him, and how he comes to in response to those changes that are surrounding him and also manifesting inside of him. So I was curious to see this because I thought the trailer looked interesting visually. I thought it looked great, and I was just curious to check it out. Some word of mouth and the award circuit, the usual crap stuff like that. And to say up front, I do think that aesthetic is quite beautiful. I mean, the framing in this is just gorgeous. Really great, just landscapes. The woods. I love the coloring of the film as well. Like the tinting of it, I thought it was very like peculiar at the very start. I was like, wow, like the coloring on this is so like vibrant and so yet has a grain to it. It's not just blown up. It feels just like um, it has that understanding of tinting to where it needs to also relate to the time that it's in. It's not just because, oh, let's blow up the colors. There's the look of the film is just really stunning. Um, and there are things to it that definitely uh, that bring about this observational atmosphere. That make it feel very integrated. Obviously the performances, first and foremost, I think really capture, that a lot of what the film is after, which is to pretty much laying out an observational environments, and these characters and the way that they move about through the story and how the performances sit with it. It's not in a case of here is some acting. It's this is allowing things to just be, giving a lot of air to breathe, and the performances there, I feel, just have such a stretch. They don't feel like that they're just condensed or just confined to certain traits. They are allowing themselves just to stretch. And Joel Egerton, especially, I felt he gets that room to breathe very, very much. So, ironically, within a character that is putting himself in a box, and if you watch the story play out, you understand what I mean. Um, but and in what that story is after, what the story is talking about, this exploration of sorts about peace itself, and where peace derives from, how it can be taken away, and the paths to returning to that back to that state of mind, the potential ways to getting back to it, and how this character is having trouble, his inability to move forward, um, the tragedy that is kind of bestowed on that character, or is pretty much the groundwork of his life. Um, it provides an interesting foundation, but I think that where the foundation is a bit flattened is the is that aesthetic itself. As much as it is beautiful, I do think that it is an overwhelming element to some extent by how it is utilized, and the dictation is very apparent. I think in terms of how it how it relates to the development and resonance and in the general storytelling. The concern of it is more weighted, than the storytelling itself to a certain extent. It feels like the filmmaking is more concerned to some extent to flaunt that aesthetic, to just showcase the landscapes and to show certain things here and there. And while it's beautiful, it is again a bit dominating in terms of just how it is within the overall construction of its story. It doesn't feel like it's just there. It's just it feels as if it really wanted to showcase that to some extent, and that storytelling is kind of pushed down to some extent, even though it does still provide that resonance. Absolutely, like I still feel at points, or largely though, like invested and intrigued. I do also recognize that aesthetic to some extent is is trying to be the dominant force in terms of that overall just framework of overall feeling to some extent. But the performances there are great, are solid. I like the tenderness that it possesses, even if it is at times somber. I like the visualizations for absolutely. So there are a lot of good elements to the film. I just think that aesthetic can be a bit overwhelming, in terms of just its overall existence and how the filmmaking chooses to have it exist. Um, but good performances, great visualizations, a great sense of feeling, and I love the overall just the portrayal of time. How much it flows in and out, the pacing itself, where I feel it has and well orchestrated and informative. It feels informative. It is well orchestrated to some extent. There's some good elements to it. I just think that aesthetic could have been tempered and not be as be as dominant as it was in my overall view. But generally, good piece. Some really good things inside it in the very apparent ways and not so apparent ways, if you ask me. So, so yeah, so those are my thoughts on Train Dreams. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good piece. I just think that the aesthetic, in terms of the usage of it, I feel like could have been tempered a little bit for my taste. But generally, though, some good pieces there, in terms of performances, um, in terms of the construction of its story, mainly in the pacing itself. There's a lot of good things there that keep you intrigued and invested, when it's all said and done. But you guys know your thoughts on Train Dreams if you guys chose to check it out. If you have seen his previous work, Jockey, let me know if it's good or not. I'd be kind of curious to check it out. So let me know all your thoughts relating to the film in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.